And who in the audience, do you guys cook a lot at home? You guys cook a lot at home? Yeah, awesome. That's like one of the number one things that you can do, no matter what disease state you're dealing with for longevity and aging. The more you cook at home, the more it's whole foods and whole ingredients that are going into your meals. So that's great. But do we all eat out sometimes? Yes. So then it's just like, use your knowledge as power and being able to order what is going to serve you off the menu. And hopefully I can give you guys some good suggestions of easy things that you can make at home. So like I said, I'm gonna go over, what an elevated plate looks like, high level of nutrients, needed to support Parkinson's, foods to include. We're gonna talk a little bit about what an antioxidant is, because we're gonna talk about why these foods are so important and why they're antioxidants and why we want them. Like foods that we can make with turmeric or curcumin, omega-3 meals that we can make, dinner ideas, smoothie ideas, and then some soups. I know with the disease that sometimes it can be hard to chew. So soups and smoothies can be a really, easy thing to make. Smoothies are great in the summer when it's so hot here, and maybe soups, we're hopefully going to be getting into that weather eventually, maybe in a month or two. So my company is called The Elevated Plate. I guess I should have introduced myself for anyone that's on Zoom. I'm Ashley McIntyre. I'm sorry. I am a clinical nutritionist, and I love doing community talks on wellness and nutrition and how to elevate our plates, and that's what my company is called, The Elevated Plate. So this is kind of my take on an elevated plate, and one of the things I focus on, no matter what clients' disease states, medical diagnoses they might have, is balancing blood sugar. And so this is, really made around balancing your blood sugar. So having half of your plates be healthy starch and fruits, healthy vegetables and fruits, excuse me. And then the other half be where you have like your protein, your whole grains and your starches, and then your healthy fats. But really, because we all don't eat like this, and we'll see the meals that I'm gonna share that you guys can, hopefully make at home. I usually just try to think of the critical four. So we have to have a little bit of protein. We might want to be more aware of that with Parkinson's disease, fat and fiber in order to keep our blood sugar balanced. I always tell clients no naked carbs. So crackers are great, pasta is great, but let's make sure we have some fat, protein and fiber on board so that it keeps our blood sugars level. It's those spikes and valleys in your blood sugar that can really create internal inflammation at a cellular level. And then I like to always say to have, make it colorful, because that means you're getting a lot of different micronutrients from your food. Any questions? You guys feel free to jump in and ask me questions, and anyone on Zoom is welcome to as well. Yeah, avocado, nuts, olive oil, coconut oil has shown to be really beneficial for Parkinson's disease as well. So anything in that range of fats. You want to try to be mindful of saturated fats, so things that can be in like your fattier meats and stuff, but you don't have to eliminate them. It's the trans fats that they have proven to be very detrimental to health. Most of our foods don't have them in them anymore. You can tell usually it's the packaged foods, and it'll be listed as hydrogenated oil as an ingredient. So you would want to steer clear of those. That's for, again, just health in general, not just for Parkinson's. But this is specifically for Parkinson's. So foods to include, I'm going to share it towards the end, I think, but foods to include fiber-rich foods. I can't suggest that enough. 95% of Americans don't get enough fiber. The average is about 14 grams a day, and I recommend clients be at least a minimum of 30 grams. For men, it can be even 40 grams. And then your omega-3 rich foods, which we'll talk a lot about, and foods, meals that can support that. Antioxidants with your fruits and vegetables that have all the color and will bring inflammation down. Olive oil and coconut oil, like I just mentioned, kind of the mainstays of the Mediterranean diet. Nuts are a great fat, and turmeric and green tea. And then, I think it's awesome that you guys are cooking and preparing your own meals at home. That's one of the best behaviors they've shown in studies to slow the progression of Parkinson's, along with going to farmers markets and focusing on organic, like local foods. So I don't know if any of you visit either the Lakewood Ranch Farmers Market or the Sarasota Farmers Market. They're really good. Right now, in terms of fruits and vegetables, it's a little scarce because it's so hot here, but in the next couple of months, they'll have like some really good booths with gorgeous food. And another good place, if you don't get to the farmer's market, because it is a little hot, Jessica's Fruit Farm is off of Honore, and that's a great spot. They're only open a few days a week, but they have some great produce as well. Really fresh and really local. So something that I haven't talked about in the past, and I don't think I realized till I did a little more research, but with Parkinson's disease, your metabolism can be much higher than someone without Parkinson's disease. So that means your body is burning through a lot of calories. So we're going to want to make sure that you eat more to compensate that, because you don't want to get too frail, you don't want to lose too much weight. We want to make sure you're strong and healthy. There can also be issues chewing and swallowing, so I will give recommendations for smoothies and soups at the end. And you can feel full faster because the food is staying in your stomach longer, just it's a delayed gastric emptying. So it's just something to be aware of. It may be better to have 5 or 6 smaller meals during the day than to try to have 3 big ones. You may be able to eat more calories throughout the day by just having some smaller meals. And you may have lack of energy if you're not consuming enough calories, because really, if you think of it, food is fuel. It's like what we need to be able to thrive and to be able to do all the activities we want to do during the day. So, eating softer foods or smoothies and soups and smaller frequent meals can be really helpful for that. Has anyone noticed that they've, felt like that they've been burning through a lot of calories or need more suggestions for more food throughout the day? I saw your eyes. So maybe not. So I'll try to give you guys some suggestions for that. So because I'm going to be using the word antioxidant a lot, this is my only biochemistry slide. So basically, a healthy atom has balanced electrons. So that's the atom furthest to the left. So it's happy, it's healthy, it's smiling. What we call free radicals, you'll often hear them refer to them as ROSs, or radical oxygen species. Same thing. They're like the bad guys. We don't want those. They're mad, they're mean, they're not balanced. They have an unbalanced number of electrons, so they're unhappy and they create cellular damage at the cellular level, which is, what is, not good for longevity and reducing inflammation. So like a free radical, things that create free radicals from a nutrition standpoint would be like eating fried food. Like the oil that we eat fried food in, typically from most places, that oil has been reheated over and over and over again, and it's completely oxidized. And so then we're putting food in it, and our food is now oxidized, and then we're eating it. But smoking, like if you are around a lot of smoke, that can be something that can create internal damage to our cells. But like definitely foods, or a lot of processed foods that just don't have ingredients that you can even pronounce on the box, that can do the same thing. And unfortunately, things like sausages and salamis and pepperonis, your processed meats, they taste really great, but they're really not great for you in terms of a cellular damage level. So, have them once in a while. Yes, I am not the nutritionist that makes people remove things completely. I don't think that that's realistic, and I think that can create, disordered eating, and that's not healthy. So I think you definitely can have it once in a while. You can have cookies once in a while. I think it's the what are we doing on a daily basis and choosing on a daily basis, for sure. So antioxidants, which is what I'm going to be talking about, those have a plethora of electrons. So it's kind of like example is always like Oprah on her giving days when she used to, whoever used to watch Oprah, and she would be like, you get a car and you get a car. That's the antioxidant. It passes around electrons and makes all of these free radicals, which are causing damage, even again, and now they're happy atoms. So that's why we want antioxidants. So that's why when I say this food is high in antioxidants, you want it. You want it. It's going to be really healthy at a cellular level. So curcumin is simply the ingredient in turmeric that makes it so powerful. It is it's neuroprotective, and it has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory components. It also has anti-cancer components. And because it can cross the blood-brain barrier, that's how it is neuroprotective. So getting into what you guys asked for, which were some like meal and some suggestions. This is a really easy salad dressing that you can make. I try not to buy salad dressings because they're so easy to make at home, and most of the salad dressings are made in the store with like seed oils like canola oil and stuff, and those can cause inflammation. So I try to just stick with either avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil for salad dressing bases. So this is, on each of these, you'll see a QR code. I am not really like a recipe creator by any means, but there's the QR code for where you can get the recipe, or if you want the recipe list, you can leave your email in the back and I can email it to you as well. But this is just from McCormick.com. McCormick is, they make spices and stuff at the grocery store. But it's a great way to add in not only extra virgin olive oil, but apple cider vinegar is also really beneficial for health. It's great for balancing blood sugar. And then you're adding both turmeric and ginger, which are really huge antioxidants, into a quick salad dressing that you can put on salads or bowls or whatever you want to at home. So that's one of my favorites. Yes, do you have a question?
I've never had turmeric that I know
Yes.
of. Can you describe it? Is it hot? Is it spicy?
It's not spicy. It is a bright yellow. You don't want to rub it in your hands. Your hands will be dyed. So it's like a very like the texture is very yellow. I don't know how I would describe it. I don't know. I think turmeric's in a lot of Indian food, because when I was doing research, the Indian culture eats about, I think, 200 milligrams of turmeric daily, and they don't tend to have a lot of Parkinson's disease. So one of the things is saying that turmeric would be really beneficial because it crosses the blood-brain barrier and it can be neuroprotective. So it's something that you can include in salad dressings. I have another recipe that this is called golden milk, and this is really delicious. This is from the ambitiouskitchen.com. So it mixes coconut milk, which is really thick and creamy, with vanilla almond milk, and it has both vanilla and maple syrup in it, and then you add in your turmeric and Ceylon cinnamon. So a little side note about Ceylon cinnamon is that it has a lot less of this component that, like regular cinnamon is called cassia cinnamon or Chinese cinnamon, and because it's cheap and widely distributed, it contains a lot of a ingredient called coumarin, which is not good for health. So you can just get Ceylon cinnamon at the grocery store. It's not going to be that as large of a cinnamon flavor, but it is more beneficial for health. But this golden milk is really good. And if you wanted to, and your budget allows, Crop Juice that is over on University, kind of like right off the interstate, they make a really good golden milk, and you could go get it there. But again, there's the QR code, or it's on ambitiouskitchen.com, and it's really, I find, delicious. No, that's like, it's to drink. It's like a latte. It's like a latte. But it's really good, and we are getting hopefully into some cooler weather eventually. So this is also, most of these recipes I have made, some of the soups I have not towards the end, but this is like a kitchen staple in my house. It's black pepper chicken stir fry from Half Baked Harvest. And you take the chicken and you marinate it in a little bit of cornstarch with the ground turmeric and ground ginger, and it's really delicious. And it's obviously has black pepper in it because it's called black pepper chicken stir fry, but it's just a really good mix. It's very easy. It comes together like very quick. I have a 10 and a 12-year-old with lots of after-school activities, so this is something that I can make pretty quickly after they're done with all of those. Any questions? No?
Said if we leave our email, you'll send us those.
Yeah, I'll send you the links to all of them because some of these, there's a few that I kind of created, but I am not a recipe creator. I'm a nutritionist. So most of these are just from websites that I bake or cook. A great app, if you aren't on it, is called Pinterest. And I will look up, like when I was looking up some of the soups, because I don't tend to cook a lot of soups myself, and I was looking up anti-inflammatory soups or soups with turmeric. It gives a lot of great suggestions. That's usually where I do all of my cooking finding and find recipes for stuff. That's also where I store all of my recipes that I enjoy, and I keep them in a file on there. So omega-3 acids, fatty acids, really important for health. Fat in general, I think, unfortunately, it was part of like maybe the late 80s, early 90s where we went through all these fat-free diets, and that was terrible. Do not fear fat. It is very good for you, especially the omega-3 fats. And sources would be like your fatty fish or your flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts. So I'll give you guys a few examples of recipes that you can include. But the reason that they're so good is that they reduce inflammation because they have medium chain triglycerides in them. So that's why they're anti-inflammatory. So this is actually when you go into Publix, and they used to do a lot more Publix cooking, they had like one of those samples. This is delicious, and this is super easy. It's a salmon recipe. You mix pesto and Dijon mustard with some lemon, and basically put it on top of your salmon and cook it for 14 minutes. So you can do whatever side you would like. You can do rice, quinoa, some potatoes, a salad, but a really easy way to include salmon into your diet. And if you're not familiar, specifically, I don't know with some of the other grocery stores, but specifically with Publix, because it's so prevalent in the area, I would recommend buying frozen because it's cheaper. And most everything like that is frozen has been flash frozen as soon as they catch it. So it has more nutrients in it than the foods that say, well, the salmon here has never been frozen, but how long has that never been frozen from by the time it was caught and shipped from Alaska? And so it's usually better just to buy frozen, and it's more affordable. And that kind of goes for fruits and vegetables too. Fruits and vegetables are great to buy local if we can get them soon when they've been harvested, but when they've been sitting out, for a week at the grocery store, the longer they sit, the less nutrients are in them. But this is a great, easy one to do, and that one's from Publix.com. This is, I really like tuna. What I will say is that you probably shouldn't get it in the can, because that was one of the things that is linked with Parkinson's as furthering the progression of the disease. So I would get it in those little pouches. But light tuna is the one you should get in terms of trying to reduce the mercury. But this is a really easy way without using mayonnaise. It uses artichoke hearts and like an olive oil dressing to kind of make it more of a Mediterranean salad. So this is kind of like a meal in of itself, or you could serve it as a sandwich too. And this is another one that I added in. This is actually how I like to eat tuna, is that I use, instead of mayonnaise, I use avocados. So avocados is like the mash. Yes.
Sorry to be clear.
No, I love questions. It's more fun when it's interactive.
When you say light tuna, are you talking about tuna in water?
It can be water or oil. It says like usually I'm saying canned, but they have it in the pouches. It'll say like light tuna versus like the albacore tuna. It'll just say light, and for whatever reason, because there's concern with tuna and seafood in general and having too much mercury, especially with a neurological disorder. So when I did research on it, it was that the light tuna was the one with the least amount of mercury, and they recommended no more than 2 or 3 servings a week.
So I've been buying white albacore thinking it's not.
I'm sure it's still fine. You're still being healthy and you're not eating, other foods. So this is where I feel like I have to, like, I almost feel like when people are like, "Whoa, I've been eating the wrong thing." It's you were trying to eat healthy. So it's like when you were whoever it was a parent when you did something, now the research comes out and says you should have done it differently and you're like, "Well, I was doing the best I could."
The light tuna is a darker, like the darker
I
meat.
think so.
That's what I understood.
Yeah, I think so.
So what's the something jack? Tuna?
I know skipjack?
Skipjack.
Yeah.
Now, how's that?
I don't know. I just try to buy it in the pouches. I know that some of I've only seen it at Whole Foods where you can buy the tuna that has been wild caught. And so, but with this, I really do love using the avocados as like the mayonnaise. And this recipe didn't have it in there, but I like to add Dijon mustard just for my personal preference. And that's cilantro. I spelled that wrong. I'm sorry. But that's from, I think, ifoodreal.com. This is one of my recipes. It's not on my website yet. I need to put it on there, but it's a really easy overnight oats recipe. I make it a couple times a week. Well, I make it once and I eat it a couple times a week because that's easier to do that way. But it's with almond milk and oats, and what it has a lot of hemp seeds, a lot of chia seeds. So again, you're getting those omega-3s, just a little bit of maple syrup. I do put a little bit of protein powder in mine, so you'll have to be mindful. If this is all you're eating, I think a half a scoop of protein powder is usually around 10 grams, and that'll be fine. But if you're having it with other foods, just be mindful, and maybe you don't put the protein powder in, and you just do like some cacao powder or extra vanilla to give it flavor. But this is something I do in mason jars at my house, and this is for one serving, and I'll do it in like three or four different mason jars, and then my husband and I can eat it when we want. It's usually good for about 5 days. Do you guys find that you guys make something one time and eat it a few times, or are you guys making new things okay. So you guys try to not recreate the wheel every time we have to eat? Because that makes life easy. So this is another recipe that's one of mine. It is on my website. Chia pudding. It's really easy. I have a texture thing with chia, so I don't actually like the little beads, which is usually how it's served. So I actually blend mine in the blender because it ends up being more like a yogurt consistency, and that's just my preference. But it has chia seeds, obviously, milk, almond milk, and then cinnamon and a little protein powder as well. Just be mindful of what you're pairing it with so you're not having too much with your medication. Yes. No, go for it.
Almond milk, that's what we drink. The almond milk, I mean, I think I prefer, but I don't always buy it, the ones that just have 1 or 2 ingredients without the emulsifier.
Yeah.
I really don't like it, but I do drink it.
I know. I alternate. I think it's Elmhurst is one of the ones. It's just very expensive, and the bottle is like half the size of the other bottle. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I think the most important thing there would be to get the unsweetened kind, is just to make sure you're not adding in extra sugar, because that will send you on a blood sugar roller coaster. So another thing, just to make sure that you're including in your diet in general, whether you're putting it on a salad, having it as a snack, putting on top of chia seed or overnight oats, is just nuts. Nuts are really, they're a great antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and they're associated with increased cognitive performance. So I think everyone here is probably interested in increasing their cognitive abilities. So the few that I've mentioned up here, walnuts, pistachios, macadamia nuts, cashews, almonds, and Brazil nuts are all like the most, the highest in antioxidant level. So just something to keep in mind when you're, when you're going shopping, maybe just grab those and have them, out in a little dish. Sometimes that can be helpful, just to have them out so that, maybe you do snack on them here and there so that you're making sure to keep up, sustained energy with food, since your metabolism is a little higher with Parkinson's. So I shared this last time. This is kind of how I make food. I make a lot of bowls, whether it's for lunch or dinner, and I end up having like leftovers, and then I kind of repair it, and I'll make it with eggs the next morning for an omelet. But just to give you guys like maybe some inspiration or ideas, and I can send this out if you want me to send it out. It's not a recipe per se, but it's just kind of how I tend to cook at home. So I will send this out, but this is kind of, I feel like, very similar to a lot of the recipes I'm about to share with you guys. So I happen to be very lucky because I have a father-in-law that likes to fish. So I get lots of fresh mahi. But there are lots of places. We obviously live in Florida. Fish is very prevalent. Again, I would recommend getting your frozen fish if you're getting it from the store. I have heard Lobster Pound on State Road 70, though, has a great seafood selection. Just FYI. But so an easy fish bowl, you're going to do some rice. You'll do, mahi-mahi. Maybe have like a cabbage slaw that's going to have a lot of fiber in it with some beans, even more fiber, some avocado, your healthy fat. And when you pair stuff like this, you normally don't even need a dressing because there's so many different flavors coming from everything. The detailed, actual recipe is from jaroflemons.com, and there's the QR code again. I would love to share them and send them out with you guys, but I feel like this is very similar to like the bowl recipe basics that I sent you guys. This is an adaptable quinoa salad that I kind of came up with. It's on my website. And what might be helpful for you guys is that on the website, I list all the different ways you can kind of like make it. So this one happens to be done with like quinoa, cannellini beans, some lettuce, cilantro and green onions, and then your red peppers, red onions, and I love pistachios, and I usually try to toast them because I feel like it brings out the flavor. But on my website, it lists all the different things you can do: rice, different types of lettuce you can use. And something that I do recommend to clients, and might just be enough for those with Parkinson's disease, is to use bone broth instead of water when you're making quinoa or rice. And you have to kind of play with it because with quinoa, I found you can just replace the water for bone broth. Sometimes you have to play with it for rice. But the reason I mention it is bone broth is very hearty with protein. So if you make it with that, and then you have some beans and you have some pistachios, that's probably enough protein for you guys to be taking that an hour away from your medication. Now, if this is like your evening meal and you wanted to top it with shrimp or grilled chicken or something, I think that would be fine too, but just be careful if you're having it for lunch. But that recipe is on my website with all the different variations. And then the next one is kind of a similar style. It's more of a salad, but it does have some quinoa. It has chickpeas, and it's more of a summer salad with oranges and avocados. And then this one has like an orangey shallot dressing to go with it too. And I really enjoy nuts on my salad, so I think there's some chopped almonds on there. But that's on my website as well. And then this is a sweet potato and kale wild rice, and it sounds really weird, but it is delicious, and I make it pretty frequently at my house. So I like to change it up. So wild rice, I feel like isn't used as common, so it's nice to have a different flavor. Again, I do it with bone broth. And then you kind of char the sweet potatoes it has 2 teaspoons of brown butter. If you make this whole recipe, it's probably enough for 2 or 3 different meals, depending on how much you eat. And then it has kale that you kind of wilt in there. And then you top it with pepitas, and it has a little Dijon mustard recipe, which is really delicious. But I think the bone broth, putting that in there for you guys, will add enough protein with the pepitas and everything. And then if you're having it for dinner, you can put like a real animal, based protein on it if that's what you prefer. So is this what you guys were hoping to have, more recipes? Because this is kind of what I did.
How many casseroles? That's a lot of preparation, all that cutting and everything. We don't have time. One bowl, throw it in.
Well, that's why the salads and like even this one, this happiness salad, it's you make it once and it's as long as you keep the dressing off of it and you only put the dressing on what you're eating, it's fine for a few days. Casseroles tend to have lots of carbs. It's hard to manage blood sugar when you have more carbs than your protein and fat and fiber. It's a hard balance. So that's kind of why I tend to be more of a bowl person, I guess. But this is a great recipe too. It's, a little forward on kale, but it has like chickpeas as a great fiber and protein source. And then this is just like a straight, like kind of a summer chickpea salad with avocado and some onions and stuff. So I have one more. Yes, what's your question?
I know bone broth is very nutritious,
Mhm.
but I tend to get our free range or organic chicken broth. Or that's how I make my rice.
That's fine.
Everything. But I know bone broth is a little more.
Or you could do like half and half. You could do half chicken broth and half bone broth. Sometimes if I use straight bone broth, there's not as much flavor as there is in the chicken broth because when they make chicken broth, they do it more with like lots of the vegetables. And so I feel like it has more flavor. So sometimes I find if I even do half and half, I'll still get some extra added protein, but then I'm still getting the flavor from the chicken broth.
I make my own bone broth in the sense of chicken broth.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yes, a lot more flavor.
Yeah, for sure. And then this is just kind of trying to use different things to get, a little protein source using edamame with red cabbage. I always want to call it purple cabbage because it looks purple, but with red cabbage and spinach and some peanuts and like a peanut sauce on it, which is really good. But this is also one of those things when I make it, I make a huge batch and then I'm eating it for lunch the next day or dinner the next day. And I only put the dressing on what I'm actually going to eat. So something that's a little more simple, this is kind of how I create smoothies. And then I will share some smoothie recipes as well. But, again, going back to the fat, protein, and fiber, just kind of make sure that those are included. So, lots of different options for fat sources. You can use nut butters, but you can also use MCT oil, avocado, extra virgin olive oil, or you can add in Greek yogurt if you like that like tangy taste. And then for fiber, we have chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds. And I usually use a nut milk. I would say, I think I meant to put it down there as well with avoid juice as a base. I would also avoid oat milk because that does also tend to spike blood sugars just because it's really just made with ground oats and a little bit of sugar, and that tends to spike blood sugars. But I have a bunch of recipes. A lot of them are from, it is a nutritionist. Her name is Kelly Levesque, and her company is Be Well by Kelly, and she has a ton of smoothies. So her website is awesome. So this is one of my favorites. It's called Cookies and Cream. It does taste a little bit like cookies and cream when it doesn't make sense as to why it does because there's no, other than the chocolate protein powder, there's no anything. It's just the way that the textures go together. It tastes really good. This one is a peanut butter cacao nib one. And again, this could be something that if, you have somebody who has a, lack of appetite because of Parkinson's, this might be easier to get them to drink a smoothie than to actually sit and chew and eat a full meal too. But this is a peanut butter cacao nib one. You might want to omit the cacao nibs or blend them in. It says to put the cacao nibs on top, but if you're having issues with chewing, it might be easier just to blend them right in. And I included this one. This is the one that I actually have. Oh, this is my favorite. I actually had this for breakfast this morning. It's blueberry muffin, mixes it with vanilla protein powder and blueberries and a couple of other things just to kind of add in some more antioxidants. Broccoli sprouts are a huge antioxidant source, so you can get those from Publix sometimes has them, Whole Foods has them. If your budget allows, they're pretty easy to get until you don't taste them in a smoothie, but I usually honestly put them on tops of salads or avocado toast or whatever I'm making because They just add a lot of anti-inflammatory components. And this is the one that I have not made, but I felt like I wanted to make sure to include since it's has brain boosting components, you know, in that it has the walnut milk, which walnuts are supposed to be really great for brain health, and then blueberries, and then 2 different types of greens with spinach and kale. But those are really easy to make, and all of that stuff can be frozen. So even if you buy a bag of fresh cabbage, or sorry, excuse me, fresh kale or fresh spinach, you can put it in a plastic bag and you can take the air out of it and put it in the freezer. And then you just break off what you need, because likely you're not going to use a whole bag of kale in a week and a half and it's going to go bad. So don't let it go bad. You know, buy most of your things frozen, save money on that, and keep it in the freezer, and then you can just add it in for a smoothie. Yeah.
Because every time I use the frozen fruit,
Mhm.
it always gets mushy. How do I prevent, like when it's defrosting, not to get mushy?
So I only use frozen fruit in my smoothies. Sometimes I'll put the frozen fruit on top of my chia seed pudding or like overnight oats, and then I'll eat it like that. But usually it's going to be mushy when it defrosts. Like you can't just, that's just going to be the texture. I have had success using frozen vegetables. If you just put a little either avocado oil or olive oil and roasting it, I've had success with that being a little crispy. The texture is slightly different than fresh, but I don't mind it. So if that's easier for you to have a big bag of frozen vegetables and just to put some on a roasting tray and to, cook those for like 20 minutes, that's always kind of a staple in my house, especially for coming in from out of town, because then I know I have food somewhere in my freezer and I can make something. So, yeah. Sorry, I wish I had a trick for the frozen fruit. And this is one that's on my website. It is kind of like a take off of a smoothie that Crop Juice makes that's really good. But it's just a green smoothie. Again, you can get, if you have texture issues, flax or chia is a great option to put in there too. And then I have a bunch of soups, which now I've decided I really want to make. So now I really want it to cool off so I can make soups. But these are really great and anti-inflammatory. They all have some sort of version like coconut milk or bone broth or lentils. Lots of different anti-inflammatory components in them. This one is from happykitchen.com. And again, be happy to share all the recipes at the end, but this one seemed pretty easy, and this could be something like, kind of like a casserole. You make it once, you have a big version of it. You can even freeze half of it and have the other half a couple weeks later. And then this is a cashew carrot ginger soup. The ginger is kind of the huge anti-component in this, anti-inflammatory component, along with cashews. And I put an option in there to use either veggie or bone broth, your choice there. But the bone broth will give you more protein, and that might just be enough for you guys taking it an hour away from your medication. So I included this again because I do think it's so important. It might be a good homework assignment. Do you guys like homework? To go do. Yeah, I know. But just for like 1 or 2 days, just to kind of for fun, because it's so much fun to count your fiber. But to see how much fiber you're actually eating, because the average American it's 14 grams. So, and if you are eating less fiber, I would not go from eating 14 grams to eating 40 the next day, because your stomach is not going to adjust well to that. So if you find that you're lower in fiber, it's something that you're going to want to increase slowly so that your stomach can adjust to that. But these are some of the foods that are highest in fiber. I'd be happy to send this list out too. I give it to my clients, and it's just more for when you're going to the grocery store, whatever day you go during the week, to just grab a few extra things that are on the list. I happen to not be a pear person, but sometimes when I look at the list, I'm like, I should buy pears more often.
What I understand a lot of that, but the amount of it, I'm not
What do you
sure.
mean?
Like how much of this and that, together combined would be the total volume that you need.
So it kind of varies by each food. There's a great, you can either get the app or you can just do it online. It's called Chronometer, and it's Chronometer with a C. So Chrono meter, meter. And I suggest that for my clients too. It's what's so great about it is you sign up for the free account. I mean, I don't even have the paid account. There is one, but and you can just go in and say like I ate half an apple, or I ate. I'm trying to think of something. They have like all branded things in there. So I had a half a cup of my almond milk or whatever it was, and it'll break it down, and then you can just put your food in there for a day or two, and it'll tell you exactly how much fiber, how much protein. It'll break all of your micronutrients out too. It's pretty cool. So that's usually what I use for clients when I'm looking at kind of making recommendations based upon their micronutrient levels. I'll do a food recall of like 3 to 7 days, and then I'll do all the work and put it in, and then I look and kind of see where there's some gaps in their nutrition and where we really need to fill it in. So just based upon like what their goals are and what their disease states are and everything like that. And going back to the fiber, because I didn't really give you specific numbers because I can't remember them off the top of my head. For men over 50, the minimum is 31 grams recommended. And for women over 50, the minimum is 21 grams. But that's like minimum in terms of like recommended daily allowances. Optimal, I would add 10 grams to that. So I would say women should be at 30 and men should be at 40 for optimal health. And then just to kind of go over things that have been shown to lead to further disease progression with Parkinson's. For whatever reason, canned fruits and vegetables came up on so many of the studies. So when you're thinking getting cannellini beans or black beans or tuna, try to get them in the pouches. Even Publix now with the beans has these, they almost look like kids' juice boxes that you can get them in now that are no longer in the cans. I have still not done it myself, but I've been told it's very easy to get the dried beans and make your own. But I have yet to do that myself. So, but just a little, I would try to steer clear of the canned fruits and vegetables. Soda, whether it's diet or regular, has been shown to lead to disease progression along with fried foods, unfortunately. And beef can be the same way. So again, these are things that you can't not ever eat, right? We eat them on occasion, and it's not something that's part of our daily diet. The studies were a little mixed, but they did show that dairy can be, they do these studies based upon, they talk to people that have the disease, and then they see what they're eating, and then they talk to them a few years later and see how their disease progressed and see what they're still eating. So it's not a causation, it's a correlation, just to be clear. But unfortunately, dairy was one of those. So that's why I tried to include a lot of things that used almond milk or cashew milk or something like that. And then it is good for you. Greek yogurt. Because they showed that it was correlated, not a causation, but a correlation with disease progressions with Parkinson's. So I'm not going to like exclude it and lie to you. But that's why I think, it's hard for some people when I work with them and I'm like, well, specifically for Hashimoto's, which is like a thyroid condition, removing gluten can be really helpful, and that can be really hard to hear. So just because it's healthy for one person doesn't mean it's healthy for another. So I really try to do personalized, nutrition plans and personalized medicine, and that's kind of where this comes in. And making sure to reduce pesticide exposure, so not using Roundup yourself and spraying it and breathing it in, or any heavy metal exposure. Industrial solvents, I think they were, in the studies, were talking about like high use of dry cleaning, like wearing clothes that have been dry cleaned on a regular basis, to avoid that as well. And then somebody reached out to me, very nice person talking about nutrition, and she said, I shared this the last time I spoke, and I accidentally forgot to put the peanut butter, which is kind of the main ingredient of these energy balls. So this is my retraction. So I'm very sorry to the lovely lady that pointed that out to me, but hopefully she was able to make them with the peanut butter. Again, I'm not a recipe creator, I'm a nutritionist, but these are very good. So I highly recommend them.